Like I have to be in a team. Who the fuck is it? Hi, what's up?
Hey, how do I pop this out in such a way? Give me a second. I just need to get this set up for my chat.
Bro, take all the time you need. I got 52 minute for you.
52 minute?
52 minute for you.
The pop out is weird. Give me a second. Let me call you back, or let me jump back in. And how do I expand this?
Do what you need, man. Do what you need.
This is so annoying.
You got it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate your faith. Let me call back.
You don't even need to ask permission. Just do it. What am I don't know what I'm running for.
And then let me expand it. I mean, I guess I could just do this. This is fine.
I can get those stupid
I'll throw on my camera.
Okay. If you did all the leveling up before, oh my god, it's such a fuck up. You get so many of these candleberries as like rewards for like just playing, and I had so many, and then my expedition cashed them all, and now I have to manually collect them, and it's the most poverty time fucking loot runs in the universe. It's so horrible. Sorry. Okay.
It's all good. You still playing Ark while we're yapping?
No, you have my undivided attention. It's just a VOD playing in the background on my stream that looks like me, but it's not actually me.
Okay. Well, all right. So I guess the thing that I wanted to ask is, we have the new revelations from today. And by the way, these are like with redactions. These are attempting to comply with the law, but obviously the law is not perfectly being fulfilled. And we're still getting stuff like Jeffrey Epstein writing a letter to Larry Nasser, another convicted ephebophilic sex predator, saying, oh, well, you know, the world is unjust because you, me, and Donald Trump share our love of young nubile women, but he's president of the United States, and we're, you know, we're in here, you know, being punished. You know, like, is that not wild as shit? Is that not changing your calculation for the Epstein files?
What is the calculation that's changing? What's the claim you're making?
Well, I thought I've heard that in several streams, which I
or no, I know my claims, but I'm curious what your claim is. I'm just curious what the big, because like there's a couple of big. Well, actually, let me back up and let's just start here. First, can you assure me that you care about this conversation ethically? I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. My bad. I'm done. Hold on, stop.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm stop. No. So there's some big claims. So like the claims
did you Pisco me?
Yeah,
was that the Pisco me?
Sorry, yeah. The claims go anywhere from there was like the biggest one is like there's a huge blackmail pedo ring where billionaires and politicians are brought in, made to fuck kids so that they're on the blackmail list and blah blah blah. And then this extends to like all politicians, celebrities, whatever else. And then there's like the middle claim of like Epstein had some men that were coming over and he was like providing underage women for them to fuck, and Donald Trump might have been one of these people. And then there's just like Epstein was, well, no, that's the strong one, and then kind of like the medium or weak one, I think. Yeah. And I don't really think there's evidence for either of those. But I understand maybe your view is moved at least on the weaker one, if not on the stronger one. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so my opinion, I think the weaker one is pretty decently substantiated at this point. I mean, I have a mind map that I could show you if you would ever be interested in it. But effectively, we have like Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell using modeling agencies to recruit young girls from, you know, flyover states in order to go participate in modeling gigs, party after that, and then those parties turning into orgies, and then for those people to be encouraged to sleep with rich and powerful men. And
is the on that back on the last one or whatever? And I really two things. Okay, one, I view this as relatively apolitical. I think you do too, right? Like if well, I know you do, right? If conservatives or liberals were part of this, like we would agree that it's bad no matter what, right?
Yeah, anybody who's engaged in underage sex trafficking should be burned. It doesn't matter if they're a Democrat or
true, and people should never provide cover for those people either. Just kidding. Sorry, no, I'm not kidding. Okay, so there's that part, and then also I'm not I know that some people have very, very, very strong opinions on this. I don't think I've seen like strong evidence for it, but I'm not like super attached to anything one way or another. I swear to God. Okay, so if new stuff comes out or there's stuff I've missed, which there could be, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll change my opinion. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. Okay, I'm not like married to a position on this. So I'm just saying that to ask that last part. You said that there was like a modeling agency where people are being drafted to go to parties, and then at the parties, those girls are being encouraged to like fuck wealthy people. Is this a thing that has been like super substantiated, or is this a thing that's showing up in like complaints and civil suits? Not to say that that makes it false, but just that it's like just a kind of an allegation that we don't really have any proof for yet.
Complaints, civil suits, and victim testimony. That's the evidence.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
And yeah, so sorry, continuing with the theorizing, and you can poke holes in the evidence if you want. But the so for instance, like Katie Collins is one of the people who described in detail like the recruitment and grooming process. She's one of the girls from a flyover state that was allegedly recruited into the sex trafficking ring. She also
wait, real quick, just to be clear, this is not the reporter person, right? This is a different girl.
No, this is a alleged victim.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
And so, according to this alleged victim, and who knows what's hyperbole, who knows what's true, who knows what's real, you know, we really just have her testimony. But according to her, you know, what would happen, and she said that she voluntarily went to these events, being flown out multiple times. And this is kind of where it gets like groomy to me, is that she was like 14 or 15 at the time of recruitment. She was being flown out for real modeling jobs where she was actually getting paid to do work. And then once it was done, that's where things got kind of like, you go to the party, and then there's just the social pressure to drink underage, party underage, do coke, hang out with these rich and powerful people, rub elbows, and then effectively you're kind of told like the future of your career is reliant on you being amenable to this orgiastic party scene.
Ooh, okay.
Well, and so I mean, regardless of whether or not we have like really strong evidence, I mean that does sound like if you were going to do this, that's how you would do it.
Sure.
And this also seems to be corroborated by other victim testimony. This also seems to be corroborated by, for instance, some of the details released today was that there was a party that this girl went to in Mar-a-Lago. She went to Jeffrey Epstein's house first, and then people were going to be moving to Mar-a-Lago, and one of her friends stopped her and was basically like, hey, we can't go to that party because that party is for girls who are interested in participating in an orgy.
So there's three really difficult topics here to disentangle, and depending on people's perspectives, they're going to want to acknowledge some or not acknowledge some, and that makes it really hard to navigate this particular story. So from in no particular order. So the first one would be like grooming women explicitly for like pedophilic purposes. This is I think we all agree this would be a bad thing, or any minor, you know, like under 18, regardless, right? This is not a good thing. 2 and 3 are going to be weird. So for 2, you ever watch House? My goated show. Wait, hello?
No, I'm still here. I was listening.
Oh, do you ever watch House, the TV show?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. There is a, I just use that as a reference for like pop culture stuff sometimes. So men, it's a relatively recent phenomenon, maybe in the last 20 years, where we've like kind of said it's like really not acceptable to be talking about how like hot and fuckable like 15 and 16-year-olds are. So it doesn't surprise me at all if people were saying, I don't know if they would have, no, it wouldn't surprise me at all if like 30 years ago, like people were talking about like when they say young and nubile, they don't necessarily mean like 18, 19. They could mean 14, 15, 16. And back then they might have even been like open about it. Not to say that doesn't make it acceptable. Obviously that's not good. So there's that at play, that like it was more socially okay for men to be creepy as fuck to younger women. And then the third thing is that an unfortunate reality that probably persists to this day, maybe not quite as strong, is that if you're an attractive woman and you're working in a field with a lot of men that are kind of like operating in that field, especially in more managerial roles, you're almost I don't want to say you're expected to fuck them, but it's like almost always going to be like this thing that is always hanging over you, sometimes for a career advancement. So I guess all that to say, it wouldn't surprise me if a thing like this like existed in practice. I don't necessarily know if it would have been like Epstein is like, I'm going to recruit minors because I want to fuck kids or whatever, but more so that like I'm recruiting girls of all ages. I know these girls when they go to these parties and they want to advance, like they're going to be fucking, and I could set up, you know, friends or whatever might want to come here. Like, yeah, that like on its face, that's all like pretty believable to me. Yeah. Not that any of it's okay. I'm not saying that's okay. It's really bad. It's really gross. And even today, it persists in form. Yeah, not good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But so here's where the rubber hits the road for me, though, because they, even if let's say that the cultural taboos around late teenage girls was different in the 80s and 90s than it was in the 2000s, and let's say that male sexual aggression was also viewed differently in the 80s and 90s. Okay, I think that's like. Descriptively, you could just look at pop media and see that that's true. Yeah. I think in the 60s and 70s, an example that somebody brought up was that Richard Pryor apparently had jokes about Spanish fly, which was like a drug that you put in a woman's drink to, you know, basically, I would say we would understand it as rape in the modern context, but apparently just like drugging women so they were out of their minds was just a thing at the time, I guess.
Weren't there jokes on like the Cosby shows, like even related to like Quaaludes and shit? Am I making this up? Like, yeah.
Well, that's what Bill Cosby was accused of. He was accused of using Rofinol.
Oh yeah, no, Rofinol. Yeah, I know that he was accused of it, but I think that there were even like jokes about like, oh, you know, I put this in mom's drink and she gets a little woozy or whatever. Like I like it's kind of fucking crazy / disgusting / insane at kind of just what was acceptable, and to some extent even today for what women are just have to deal with in terms of like male sexuality. But yeah.
But where the rubber hits the road for me is that these people knowingly engaged in like criminal behavior, and what I mean by that is Alan Dershowitz in 1997 wrote an op-ed about why he thinks the age of consent should be dropped to 15, which basically just shows that he knew that the age of consent was 18. Some of the photos that have been released in the past 24 to 48 hours were Jeffrey Epstein writing quotes from the book Lolita on allegedly an underage girl.
Sure.
So I mean, there's no world we could say that like.
I mean, we know that Epstein was like willing to have sex with underage people, right? Below the age of 18. I don't know how low, but we know that, right? That's like beyond. I mean,
and the allegations go as low as 13, but it seems like there's like a threshold there. Although we also have testimony, maybe not testimony is the wrong word, but we have statements from Pam Bondi that he was engaged in like younger CSAM material, like he possessed pre-adolescent CSAM material. I think there's a quote into that effect.
Sure, but I would say I would trust whatever was in the indictments, whatever was convicted of. I wouldn't trust anything fucking Pam Bondi says, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Sure.
Well, right, but at some point, when, as an example, we have Alex Acosta allegedly flubbing up and saying that he never read. This is the prosecuting attorney for the federal district that was responsible for the original Sweetheart deal, that he never actually read the 40 sworn written affidavits from the victim. I think at one point he flubbed and he said like, oh, well, part of the reason why we prosecuted it the way that he did is because allegedly he had intel ties. Then we have the Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, in photographs, partying with Epstein, hanging out with Epstein, socializing with Epstein. When we have Virginia Giuffre saying that she had sex with Prime Minister Ehud Barak, when we have allegedly Mossad agents using Epstein's properties for operations, like at what point do we say, oh yeah, there's enough smoke here for fire?
That's a good question. I think that I feel like you and me approach these things in a very different way, so I don't know if we're ever gonna see eye to eye on these. But I would need something stronger linking these things, just because the guy was so wealthy and so influential. Well, maybe not influential, but definitely wealthy. I'm sure this guy talked with fucking everybody. So I don't know if I would say that, like, are you basically saying that there was like a broader, like, Israel intelligence involved conspiracy to keep this guy out of jail or something? Is that...
Potentially, or he just flexed nuts that like, oh, well, I have all this compromising material on a whole bunch of powerful people, and we wouldn't want that to go anywhere, would we? And, you know, maybe Mossad or CIA vouched for that.
I feel like the biggest thing that the hardest part for me to get over is why was he ever arrested and put in prison if that was the case? I've never understood that.
Because if it was so egregious and the feds didn't take action, the state probably would have. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office basically said, like, we are horrified by the deal that the feds have negotiated, and you know that basically they took it off of our hands.
I understand what you're saying, but you're talking about like
differently.
Yeah, but you're talking about like the most powerful blackmail in the world wouldn't be able to make like a state case go away. Like, this is some real, like, renegade agent, like, I'm going off the grid and I'm really going after this guy. I don't care what the feds say. Like, LAPD is taking care of this one. Like, it's not impossible, I guess, but it's...
Well, but this is where I like our system. So, so for instance, in the state of Florida, something that we were told when we were going through the police academy is that the state police specifically are hired and trained to arrest local cops. So if you're a local cop and you do domestic violence battery, or you get a DUI, or you get a traffic ticket, or you get into a bar fight, or something like that, you better pray that it's, like, let's say you commit a crime. You better pray that it's somebody from, like, the local jurisdiction who is friends with your chief who will help you sweep it. Because if a state police shows up, the state police are effectively trained to fuck everyone, including state attorneys, including prosecutors, including cops, because they view it as a viable anti-corruption measure to keep the state police separate and not to have them be part of the thin blue line.
Yeah, that makes sense,
I think
right?
It's entirely possible that state authorities wouldn't sweep for a federal crime.
But you're talking about that goes the other way there, right? Like, it wouldn't surprise me that state authorities get that type of training, because local police dealing with local police is always going to be kind of like a weird conflict of interest. So you want the higher entity to deal with it. But like state police wrestling something away from federal police, it's not impossible, I guess.
No, I think it's unlikely. That's probably why PBSO, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, that's probably why they didn't do it, is because it went up to the feds, and it's up to the feds to figure out what they're doing, and the feds figured it out, and they wanted to keep their jobs, so they made a little bit of noise about it, but they didn't make that much noise about it, because technically it's not their responsibility anymore.
Sure.
So
yeah, go ahead.
But that's kind of my point, is that like we have the sworn written testimony of 40 victims for the federal case from Alex Acosta. We have Alex Acosta. What is it? He had like a 1.5-year prison sentence with work release, where he was able to go to his job. Then Alex Acosta, somebody would have to look up the exact appointment that he got, but as a part of the Trump administration, he got an appointment. And I think it was like Department of Transportation or something.
Or like Department of Labor, yeah. Those were really dumb, yeah.
And then he ultimately had to resign because of the pressure, because of the public pressure.
Wait, did he?
And then
wait.
That,
he resigned because of that? Is that really true?
He resigned. How quickly did he resign? He only resigned a few months into his job.
But why would he have? How would he have survived appointment? I don't know if no. I think he was Secretary of Labor for 2 years.
I mean, I would have to look it up in order to get the exact details. But I remember...
Oh, no. Following Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in July of 2019 on sex trafficking charges, Alex Acosta faced fresh calls for resign. Okay, it was after he was arrested again. So, okay. So, but it was 2 years, but it was after Epstein was arrested again. Then he resigned. Okay, gotcha.
Well, so Alex Acosta, but also the other thing that I find weird or creepy is we have these communications between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein, where apparently once he was dismissed from the Trump campaign and no longer as good at boys with Trump, he got hired or accepted a job or suggested a job for Jeffrey Epstein of, hey, let's try to rehabilitate your image. And allegedly, that's where, these photos are coming from, where Steve Bannon is hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. But one of their communications and text messages was like, hey, you were the guy that I was worried about most during the campaign, potentially tanking the Trump administration.
Oh, I think I saw these a while ago, yeah.
Back, he's like, yeah, I was the guy. I could have.
Sure. This is like the world's best kept secret, though, if this is the case. I feel like
Why would it be the world's best kept secret if we've already kind of known about it for 20 or 30 years? What are we talking
that Trump was fucking kids?
Well, to be clear, you said that he's, well, and we're being descriptive here. I'm not assigning moral weight, all right?
Wait, hold on, wait, just to as a quick thing. Fucking kids is bad. We both agree with that, right? Just as, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think that what you said earlier is descriptively true, which late teenagers in the 80s, 90s, and 1000s and male predatory sexual behavior was
a lot more normalized. Yeah.
Was culturally different. So even if it was illegal, it was perceived differently. So I don't think that when Jeffrey Epstein was throwing these parties or whatever, that everybody was going to the parties and they're like, ha ha, we're a bunch of pedophiles, ha, you know? Like they were probably thinking like, oh, I'm going to party with a bunch of attractive models and we're doing these drugs and we're doing
so real quick, so while that's possible, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like necessarily...
Sorry, 1 second, I gotta mute myself.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, need to talk to the wife for a second. So,
anyways,
the cultural perception might have been different. Even if the legality was this.
The reason why I don't like the wild goose trails, horse trails. What's the word I'm looking for? Goose hunts. Wait, what the fuck is the phrase I'm thinking of? I'm losing my mind.
Wild goose chases?
Goose chases. There we go. Not goose trail. Is because it's so easy to connect the dots and to make the stuff fit. Okay, this is kind of my issue. But like, so for what you're saying here, and that it was more socially acceptable, like a guy saying that, you know, like he would fuck a 16-year-old or 15-year-old, you know, that would just be like a thing that a guy would brag about or whatever back then.
Or they would claim ignorance.
Well, I think they would just brag about it. Because
Jeffrey Epstein himself could not have claimed ignorance, but if somebody was going to a Mar-a-Lago party, or a Jeffrey Epstein party, and they were like a rich and powerful person, and they were doing drugs and whatever, they could claim ignorance.
Sure, they could, but I'm saying like that would be all the more reason in my mind why it would have definitely come out by now, because even more people would know about it, because it's not like the person even tried to necessarily hide it. Whereas like today, they might be like really secretive about like fucking a 16-year-old. Back then, you know, people in chat, I haven't looked this up, but people in chat were saying that apparently Jeffrey Seinfeld's fucking girlfriend was...
Yeah, he was
17.
17-year-old.
Yeah, when he was 38. Like I think even more people would have seen it if that was the case.
Sure. And you know, by the way, you know, this is where Megyn Kelly got in trouble, right? Where she's like, actually, it's not pedophilia, it's ephebophilia. Hurt to dirt. Like,
sure.
But that's where I think the modern instinct, maybe I'm being too progressive here, but the modern instinct that the reason why we have the age of consent is because, yes, people might be physically more mature, but they are intellectually and maturity-wise, emotionally, they're stupid as fuck. Like, we've all met 18-year-olds, we've all met 19-year-olds who've done this fuck. And then also, there's a huge maturity thing that happens between 18 and 25. And then not just that, like we understand that people will be sexual at that age, but that's why we have the Romeo and Juliet exception, where if you're within, depending on the state,
I don't know what
5 years or 3 years, then we don't care, because
Sure.
we just don't want a 50-year-old taking advantage of a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old.
Yeah, sure. Wait, I don't know what this argument is for. I don't disagree with any of this, right?
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that attitude has shifted in the past 20 or 30 years, where these people knew that they were probably doing something illegal, but it was more socially acceptable.
Well, I don't even know if it would have been illegal, right? Like what? Like.
Why would Alan Dershowitz write an op-ed to reduce the age of consent to 15 unless there was some law standing in the way of him doing this legally?
Well, and I don't know what the laws are today. I don't have my libertarian card anymore. But like, isn't somebody in chat put the age of consent in Florida was 16? Is it now, or is it? I don't know what it is now, or if it's 18.
We would have to take a look at it, because basically, I don't think that a 16-year-old can hook up with a 50-year-old in the state of Florida. I still think it's 18, but I think 16 is like the Romeo Juliet stuff.
Maybe. I don't know 100%. I think the thing for the people that are talking about the ephebophilia, pedophilia thing or whatever, if I ever threw this up, which I might have, I think the annoyance that I had a long time ago, minor, I don't know that much, whatever, but is that when I heard about all the Epstein stuff initially, before I looked at any of it, I thought that Epstein was like flying out fucking like 8 and 9-year-olds. I thought he was on some crazy pedophilia shit. 13 is really bad. 14, 15, 16 is really bad, especially if these are older guys. I think that I think it's fundamentally a different conversation, though, one that's still really bad. But I think it needs to fixate on how predatory and strange, especially like wealthy and powerful men, can be around younger women, and that can go up to through early 20s, depending on the environment. It's still really bad, and obviously in this case, if anything comes out,
200 years ago, Edgar Allan Poe married his cousin who was like 13 or something. I forget the exact details, but obviously, like our perspectives on maturity and sex and all that kind of stuff have evolved over time.
The issue with Megyn Kelly throwing up the ephebophilia thing is I don't think she's doing it to say there's a huge other problem that we should focus on. She probably is just throwing it up more as like a defense of the behavior period, which is probably not good. Yeah, that'd be my guess if she was.
Regardless of whether or not how she's intended it, that's obviously how it was read.
Sure.
Because what it seemed like was more stuff was coming out, and she wanted to make a differentiation so people could make moral excuses if powerful people had participated in the behavior.
Sure.
Even if that's not how she intended it, that's definitely how it felt.
Sure.
So, well, hold on though. So here's the thing though, is we have so much smoke. I understand that we don't have fire, but we have Jeffrey Epstein allegedly well, I mean, I guess confirmed in a lot of degrees.
Oh, there's also, just as a quick thing, because like fuck me. All of these words are so fucking loaded. Another thing that's a little bit annoying is when you say sex trafficking. My understanding, I could be wrong on this, my understanding is for the charge of sex trafficking is literally if you've paid for a girl to go or travel between state lines and then you have sex with her if she's underage, that constitutes trafficking. And I can agree in terms of like criminal stuff that would be like adequate to charge the crime. But again, a much different connotation between like this girl is like taken, is like kidnapped, drugged, and then like sent to some guy to go have sex with, versus like a 17 or 16-year-old was flown out for some modeling event, and then guys were fucking her too, and that was kind of the expectation. Again, not good, but one is like way more heavily.
That's actually exactly what Katie Collins' testimony is, because she went back after the initial event. So clearly there was some enticement of money, professional opportunity, clout, power. These were used as leverage because they I think one of the interviewer or whatever, or she just mentioned it voluntarily. They were like, well, why didn't you tell your parents? Like, why didn't you tell your parents that you were being flown out to New York in order to participate in orgies and do drugs and all this kind of stuff after your modeling gig? Jesus. And I think a direct quote from Katie Collins is, well, they if they had found out that that's what was happening, they would have never let it. And consciously or subconsciously, clearly what's happened is, even though she's being violated legally, even though her lack of maturity is being taken advantage of, she, in her youthful state, 14, 15 years old, she was hoping for clout, money, power, access, which is exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was using in order to get these girls to effectively volunteer to participate in this.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, I get so triggered when I hear this, and fucking Doobie, the dipshit, try to pull this out. If a kid does a bad thing, it is very easy for that kid to get roped into doing more bad things because for whatever fucking reason, and I remember being like this, like it's just stupid. Kids, like the worst thing in the world is like getting in trouble with your parents for some reason. You just don't ever want like mom and dad to find out you've done something bad. So like if a kid has done a bad, and especially an older person who's in a position to flip that on them knows it, you can leverage that into getting the kid to continue to do bad things, especially if the kid ever thinks that they benefit in any way, size, shape, or form. So if you get one of these young girls to fly out and do some gig or whatever, and she also had sex with an older guy while she was there, like it's probably pretty easy for those men, not only offering her future opportunities, but to say, well, if any of your parents find out, like your whole shit is over, they're gonna hate you. Like, yeah, that's, and anybody that questions that is such a fucking retarded piece of shit. Like, kids can so easily be manipulated and shit like that because they're like the number one concern in a kid's life is getting in trouble. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, and that echoes, of course. Like, I treat, as a former law enforcement officer, I treat testimony as something that can be used as evidence, but always needs to be corroborated. Sure. And so, as an example, something that goes along with what you just said is that there was a girl in Palm Beach who was hanging out with Jeffrey. I don't remember the exact details, but it was one of the FBI reports. And effectively what happened was Jeffrey Epstein stole photographs, like bathing suit photographs, model posing photographs of this girl's sisters. And she thought it was super creepy. Mm-hmm. And then not just that, he was asking her to take more nude or semi-nude or bathing suit photos of other girls like that she knew. And she reported that to law enforcement. But like what she reported Jeffrey Epstein said when she was thinking about going to law enforcement is, you better not tell anybody, because if you tell anybody, I'm going to burn down your fucking house.
Sure.
And so that's like where there's this threat of coercion. And this is a time before cell phones, audio recording, video recording. It's infinitely more difficult to corroborate these statements,
especially from a kid. Yeah.
Compared to now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
We don't have like as far as I know, there's not a serious contention besides the fact that I think there's a shitload of smoke to the point that I'm more willing to believe more extreme claims, and you're not willing to do it without hard evidence. But I mean, this has been our dynamic through several.
Sure. It also depends on like what type of like accountability are we looking for. Like I think it is probably important to protect the criminal standard. I think is totally fair. To say that like, well, there's probably not enough here to like indict somebody on a crime. But like there are civil cases that these people are, well, they can't bring them against Epstein, I guess. People have brought them against Trump. And then there are obviously our public accountability standards, right? Like, should Republicans support Donald Trump if they feel like he was kind of involved in this type of stuff, or if so many men look the other way? But yeah, I really do feel like young girls is like the slavery of our like past generation, where you look back on it and, you know, in our current day, it's like, Jesus, can you really own slaves? Like, that's crazy. Did anybody support that? And like, I think to our credit, like socially, we have progressed quite a bit on some male-female issues. And one of those issues is just like how acceptable it was for people like who are directly in positions of like employer relationships or like talent management relationships to be fucking like very young girls. It's very insane. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Look at That 70s Show, which was made in the thousands, but it was documenting the 70s. Or look at what's the one with Al Bundy, the shoe salesman? I forget. But the whole joke is that Al Bundy's boy is like a gooner creep who can't get laid.
Sure.
And then Al Bundy's daughter is like a hot teenager. Like
sure.
That's the entire series of jokes, is like the sexual weirdness of teenagehood.
Yeah. I remember watching a movie, I think a year ago, called Waiters. Have you ever seen this before? It has Ryan Reynolds in it.
Wait, hold on. Waiting?
Oh, Waiting, yeah. And I think like
I fucking yeah.
I think one of the running jokes for this whole thing is him wanting to fuck the 17-year-old like server girl or whatever.
The hostess.
Yeah, the host. I don't know if he does at the end or not, but like the whole joke is like it's like it's her birthday in 3 days, 2 days. And this is like a hilarious gag, and this is like a 2000s movie, I think, right? Like.
Well, in Monty's defense, and I do encourage people to go watch that movie. In Monty's defense, at the end, he doesn't do it, but he tells everybody, or he tells her, because she wants to hook up. He tells her, if anybody asks you, tell them I broke the law twice. But if you want to hook up, let's wait. And so, like, yeah, it is a running gag that the 17-year-old with 363 days wants to hook up, but Monty knows it's illegal. Yeah, it's 90 minutes of that.
Sure. What are you talking about? Anyways, wait, are you talking about the movie I'm talking about?
Yeah, Waiting with Ryan Reynolds and also Jason, whatever his name is, and they're both serving in a restaurant.
Yeah, no, okay. You keep saying Monty. Is that just the name of the character?
Yeah, and also like the way that they play a game is by flashing their genitals at each other.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's probably the most accurate restaurant industry movie I've ever seen. But all right, moving past that. So I think all I wanted to talk about was I wanted to see, for me, I'm willing to believe more of the extreme claims because of the evidence that's out there, because where there's smoke, there's fire. It seems like you're still being very casual, that you just, not casual, but you're still you want to see the evidence before you make broad claims.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, I guess, is like moral systems, because I wanted to articulate this to you because I think I learned something recently.
Sure. And then one quick thing, and then we can
unless you have more Epstein stuff, we could talk about more Epstein stuff. I was just saying.
Just one quick thing I wish that people would kind of like keep in mind. One of the reasons why I don't like to view the Epstein stuff is, for what Epstein did in terms of fucking that many young women or bringing that many young women around is maybe exceptional, but like people should be aware that like that male behavior was not that exceptional back then, and a lot of it unfortunately still carries over kind of today in some ways, and I think people need to be more aware of that sometimes. Not to take away from the badness of it if it's happened, but to like that people should be aware that like there's still this like very weird like sexual expectation that can be placed on women in certain industries, or that young women. I remember it was some actress who did a whole thing about how like she felt like she was getting jobs over better actresses just because she came in and she was like 23, 24. I think it was the woman who played the Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises. I always forget her fucking name. But
is it Zoe something Kravitz?
No. Dark Knight Rises. Anne Hathaway. Yeah, I think it was an interview from her a while ago. But yeah, so it's not good, and it happens, and it shows up a lot, and it's not just by like creepy pedophile old men. It's unfortunately built into like a lot of industry stuff, and it's not good. But yeah, okay, go ahead. Moral system stuff, yeah.
And all you have to do is you have to watch pop media at the time. Another one that people could reference, which I think is interesting, go watch the original American Pie.
Mm-hmm.
Effectively, the original American Pie is like, I would say it's a encapsulation of the sex culture of the 2000s, for wrong or right. And the climax of the movie is like digital voyeurism.
Sure.
The climax of the movie is he's trying to hook up with the hot foreign exchange student and live stream it to his friends, but he accidentally sends the live stream key out to everybody. And so, as a result, everybody's committing like a digital child porn crime. And it's all done for a laugh.
Okay. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So anyways, and obviously difference between teenagers and kids, blah, 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 blah. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the moral systems, because this is something that's come up repeatedly, which I'm sure you're familiar, but I'll ask anyways. Are you familiar with like the difference between like, and I'm probably going to fuck this up, but dignity and honor culture?
I've heard the term honor culture before. Generally is associated with cultures in high poverty, where the only thing that you have to represent your honor is your name and your reputation, and it leads to a lot of like physical violence and fighting, because it's the only way to assert yourself, because you don't have like a material way to do so. I don't know what dignity culture is, unless it's the same thing.
No, I mean, that's the way that I understand it too. Bear in mind, I'm going to use lay definitions. Mm-hmm. So honor, I think the way that I would define it is it's esteem, right? It's like social esteem. There's an internal sense of honor. There's an external sense of honor. And so it is kind of like perception of the community over how virtuous you are. And so as a result, you can gain and lose honor. And so when somebody violates you, let's say they have sex with your daughter, or they beat up your son, or they kill a family member, then your honor has been insulted, your esteem has been insulted, and so you must respond, right? And then we have different ways to respond to that. Okay, so using that definition, I'm probably using this incorrectly from the sociological standpoint. However, I would say what I would call barbaric retributive violence and eye for an eye are rooted in honor culture, and I think it's important to distinguish them. So do you have any objections so far, or are you okay if I continue distinguishing them?
I don't know how heavily historically I would agree, but for the purpose of this conversation, yeah, sure, yeah. I don't know, I don't know enough to say, but yeah, sure, okay.
Okay, so the way that I would distinguish these things is barbarian retributive violence is that somebody kills a member of your family or something like that. Let's say it's the Viking days. And in response, you just like slaughter their entire family, kidnap all the women, enslave all the children, this, that, the other.
Sure.
And so that is barbarian retributive violence because the punishment is not proportional to the original offense.
Sure. Wait, can I ask real quick, where are you getting this from, or where did you stumble on this?
Weirdly enough, I got it largely from a community member of yours, Reason Riffs. We talked about tit for tat. Gotcha.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, I'm listening.
So eye for an eye, I think you might have said this, by the way, is that eye for an eye is technically a step in a more just direction, because if somebody pokes out your eye, you're either entitled to poke out their eye, or you're entitled to some kind of compensation equivalent to that of your eye.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to put this aside, and realistically, this is all in the backdrop of the doxing drama, but I want to continue because there's two other points that I want to make. So in reference to dignity culture, I think it's argued that the United States is a dignity culture, where we believe that every human being is entitled to a certain amount of dignity, including bad people and our enemies. Do you object to anything I'm saying?
Yeah, everybody has rights, basically, yeah.
Okay, and then within dignity culture, I think there's tit for tat, and I think that there's turning the other cheek. And so I'll start with turning the other cheek because I think it's the least morally probable. So turning the other cheek is operating with another person in the ultimate good faith, where effectively, like, let's say that you slap me on the face. Well, I go, well, damn, we're, both brothers or sisters in Christ, or maybe you could become a brother in Christ, and you have hurt me, but I'm not going to hurt you back because ultimately I want to seek cooperation with you in the future. And so I'm not going to hurt you back. Any objections so far?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And then tit for tat, what I've heard you argue, and I've heard other people argue, is that you can't constantly turn the other cheek, because if somebody slaps you on the other cheek, or slaps you on the cheek, you turn your other one, they slap you on the other one, you turn it back, they slap you again. Well, very clearly you're not getting that positive reciprocation. So within game theory, what you do is you impose not the same consequence. It's not eye for an eye. It's not that, you murder one of my family members and then I murder you, or murder one of your family members. It's basically like, I get that person, I get whoever you hired to kill my family member, I get them incarcerated. Sure. Or I get them fired, or I get them this, or I get them that.
Yeah.
And so there is a negative consequence to your bad behavior, but then 5 to 10% of the time, I engage in turning the other cheek, hoping that we can build a reciprocal and positive relationship.
Sure. This is like, I'm sure you guys talk about it, right? This is like tit for tat with like 5% forgiveness built in or whatever, yeah.
Right. So, okay. So we've landed here descriptively. I think I've articulated the ideas where anybody with above 80 IQ could understand them. The reason why I think Israel is catching shit is because they're not engaged in eye for an eye, turning the other cheek, or tit for tat. Based off of this model, they're engaged in barbarian retributive violence. And then also, I would say, the reason why a lot of your critics, even if I don't necessarily agree with them wholeheartedly, the reason why they're critics of you and DGG and doxing is because you're not engaged in turning the other cheek. You're not engaged in tit for tat according to them. You're engaged in barbarian retributive violence.
Sure.
I mean, that's it. That's the whole argument.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I can see where people are coming from. I think the main issue, there's like this third layer that exists now that we have to talk about a lot today, because the ability for us to have an incorrect view of the world in some ways is like stronger than it ever has been, because you can make shit up, put it online or whatever, and you have the ability to do that in ways that maybe people in the past didn't quite have the ability to do that. So one of the biggest issues that I'll have when it comes to communicating like what's been done to me is that it's a lot of stuff to keep up with. And then typically, just because of the way that the communities kind of like function, usually the only type of response that I can do is probably going to be fairly direct, fairly brutal, and fairly easy to understand. I don't have like the same type of, I'll call it like snark communities that can operate symmetrically with other, like, I guess I call them snark communities, like Justical or whatever, towards me. So it's very easy for them to play the plausible deniability game on everything. And then for me, obviously, I just own anything that I do. So yeah, the perception is, building to what you're saying, the perception is that like, oh wow, like Destiny is being really unhinged against this person, and you can't prove that, for instance, like they've done anything like unhinged towards him. So it can come off as disproportionate. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I mean that was the main thrust of it, to be honest. And at the risk of repeating myself, the way that JStock, or Doobie or Queeman or anybody who you've said like, hey, if these people get doxxed, that's based or whatever.
Yep.
The whole thing is they're appealing to almost like an individualist sense of dignity culture, which I do find sympathetic. I do think ideally we would turn the other cheek. I do think ideally we would engage in tit for tat. However, they're appealing to that sense of dignity, whereas I think what you're kind of saying is like, listen, man, like these people are doing barbaric, fucked up shit to me in a collective sense of maybe it's not Queeman, maybe it's not J-Stock, maybe it's not, I can't think of the third person, but effectively like the swatting, the doxing, the digital harassment, the porn leaks, this, that, the other. You're effectively at the mercy of an army of digital schizophrenics, and you don't really have a clear way to punch back, which is why you're doing what you're doing, or at least that's the steel man from my perspective.
Yeah, I do think there is an interesting phenomenon though when it comes to like ongoing harm. You would agree that the punishment for punching somebody shouldn't be execution, right? Like we shouldn't put somebody on death row if they punched somebody, right?
Right. Yeah, it has to be proportional.
Yeah, but let's say somebody punched you, and then let's say they said they were going to punch you again, and you took out a gun, and you're like, stop, or I'm going to shoot you, and they're like, I don't care, I'm going to punch you again, right? You could argue, right, in these circumstances, assuming it's not a 2-year-old child or something, right? That like, okay, well, you probably could, shoot this person here. You could defend yourself here, right?
Yeah, that's the basis of self-defense.
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting world when we're talking about like ongoing harms. I think that the calculation for like what kind of retribution, it's not even really retribution, but what kind of like action is justified on the other end, I think changes quite a bit, right? Like if I was doing this in response to like stuff that they'd done a long time ago, I mean, one, I just wouldn't. I just don't have the attention span for it. I don't care. Then I think that the argument would be a lot different there. And then two, if the other party was looking for any type of reciprocation, I think it would be different as well, but like they're not, right? The other parties basically deny all wrongdoing, ascribe to me way more wrongdoing than any of them have ever been able to substantiate. And then as a result of both of these things are able to like indefinitely justify like a continued, real life harassment campaign that I think is a little bit unhinged. Yeah.
But then the plausible deniability enters in because we're treating these things, I guess, in this like collective responsibility sense. We're treating them as tribes, where effectively, and I've heard you argue this in the past, because there's cross pollination between the Snarker Discords and Kiwi Farms and Doxbin and this, that, the other. Of the people who are constantly saying Steven's a bad guy, he needs to get taken down, he needs to be canceled, he's done all these evil shit, he's going to do evil shit in the future, fuck him, blah, 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 let's ruin his life. Even if they're saying that on stream and they're not individually doxing you, harassing you, swatting you, etc., you're going to hold them responsible for the outgrowths of that, which is dox information, swatting, and harassment.
Well,
and their argument...
Well, a couple things. Yeah. So firstly, I no longer buy this argument. I'm too charitable. I'm still too charitable, really. But like, I no longer buy the argument of like, my community just happens to resemble 1-to-1 every single unhinged person in this other community. I think the overlap is, if not intentional, like every person in these communities is aware of it and they are okay with it and supportive of it, and they all like play into it and feed into it. So like this idea that like, oh, we just happen to be in some of the same places, I don't accept that anymore. I think that's crazy. Number one. And then number two, my issue is not with people who are just like critical of me or who speak up about me or whatever. I know that people like to present it that way because it underplays or downplays their actions and it makes me look insane. It's people that are either fostering or hosting communities or who are actively participating or encouraging what I would consider to be some of the most insane, like, real life harassment shit that you can basically get to, up to like visiting me in real life. So when you have, like, for Gesticles Discord, like the easiest example to point to recently, and there are others too. Kelly can actually talk about some of these. But like when you're contacting people that are part of my court case and you're shooting all these emails on the Discord server and like everybody is giving you thumbs ups over it, like you know, some people like Justical tried to wheel this one out. Oh, well, Destiny's just post hoc rationalizing this. Like, that didn't happen until later. And it's like, no, this is one action in a long chain of actions, but it's hard to point to the other ones in particular because of how, you know, they do try to ban the outright stuff. But it says something about your community. If every single person in your community is like totally fine with that and is jumping on board with it, it's probably not the first time they've done it. It probably has been, as I've said, like a long history of like this type of behavior. Yeah.
Well, so then the example though is kind of the counter example that I've heard brought up is that Rose allegedly, right? And if you don't want to get into specifics, we don't have to get into specifics.
Into whatever you want. It's all public filings now.
But effectively that like Rose, like early in the court case, at least as far as I understand it, we didn't know the difference between Rose and Solo. You didn't necessarily have any more contact with Rose. And so doxing her information or putting her information out there so she could be found was, in their opinion, a barbaric retributive action because you didn't know whether or not Rose was an innocent party.
Yeah, but like that to be clear, I didn't make sure you understand this. That's not a good faith argument. Nobody really believes that, right? That me looking for this person I have no idea. I don't have any leads on who leaked anything. I don't know what. The only thing I know is the Rose person that I spoke to that Solo allegedly said just gave her his account. Now, I didn't know at the time if that was necessarily true or not, but I have nothing to go on for somebody who has, I would say, pretty egregiously, probably in a harsher way than anybody in the history of my entire life has like aggressed on me. I think I'm kind of within my rights there to do whatever I can to try to find this person. I think that yeah.
Okay, within your rights, but then the path of least harm would be like hiring a PI, right?
Yes. Wait. Hold on. Wait. Give me. Wait. Can you hold on? Wait. Can you send me it? Are we texting or whatever? Have we ever texted before? Oh, wait. Hold on. Or actually, wait. Give me 1 second.
If you don't want to get into specifics, we don't have to get into specifics.
No, we can get into anything you want. It's annoying because another thing, I'm only doing this because I'm talking to you, okay? Because these people don't care about like the facts on literally any of this fucking bullshit. 1 sec. I'm trying to think of what this I did hire a private investigator and they couldn't find anything. But no, do be a Jessica. Nobody believes me when I talk about any of this shit. Oh, here, 1 second. I just want to send you a fucking like this. They basically ended up fucking ghosting me after I paid for their services. Here, hold on. Boom, boom, boom. And I asked both my law firms to look for this person, and neither one was able to locate them. I just want to send you this just so that fucking somebody sees this, because it's the same stupid shit gets repeated over and over again, right?
Okay.
But this is you can look this up.
I would take it on good faith. I know other people.
Well, no, you don't. I don't care if you do or not. But I just saw somebody who's seen that. I've sent you like this is my. Oh wait, did I send that to you or did I send it to myself? Oh wait, hold on. I'm coming, Paul. Hold on. Here you go. Okay. You see this, right?
Give me 1 second. I'm going to move you off screen. That way I don't expose all our other private messages. And I'm going to look at it on my phone. So give me a second real quick. I just want to make sure that I don't actually expose our other messages, our other private messages.
True.
All right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I see it.
Just verifying that. Yeah. Okay.
And I also see the date.
Yeah. Oh, long time ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. True. I didn't even think that. Yeah. So yeah. So I did try to do this. I know that everybody says I didn't, and it's all because. But like, no, yep. You heard me talk to Doobie. No matter what I say, like these people aren't interested in the truth. They have their idea about me being some, whatever crazy abuser trying to fuck this girl or whatever. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I could just articulate for that chat without saying anything specific. Effectively, I see the date, I see the time, and I see some communications at what looks like hiring a private investigator with things that I would expect out of hiring a private investigator.
Yep. Which is also why I was annoyed when Pixie put in her filings that they spent money to hire a private investigator to find this girl. They didn't. They just got it from Kiwi Farms. And now I know that because it was the person from Justicle's server that emailed them and then threatened basically the girl to get her to email Joan as well. So, yeah.
Well, okay. So what I want to say though, which is saying this as a online and slightly IRL friend of 5 years now. So I guess the reason why, like, I know that you're pulled between many forces at all times. And as an example, people want you to have a schizophrenic personal life because it's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's fun to talk about. Whenever something pops off, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We call it the Destiny dick watching traffic helicopter, because the easiest way to get a few hundred live viewers is to cover personal drama, in your life, right?
Sure.
And it's an easy way to make money. It's an easy way to get a larger following. But as your online friend, I don't want to see you hurting yourself for the entertainment of the chat.
Yeah.
And so,
and to be clear, I'll reiterate this for the billionth time, although I don't think you believe me, but my audience knows that my personal life has been pretty divorced from my stream for like the past 2 years. It's been significantly less than it ever was in the past, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, but then what I was going to say in reference to that personal life is divorced from the stream. I want that to continue, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then also in reference to dealing with these anti-fan communities, if we're talking about you participating in barbarian retributive violence, I mean, maybe that we can envision an enemy.
To be clear, I wouldn't consider what I'm doing barbarian, whatever. I think it's pretty eye for an eye in terms of, yeah.
Okay. Well, however if we want to classify eye for an eye, I think that your critics are categorizing it as barbarian retributive violence. But regardless of what it is, sometimes barbarian retributive violence could be justified, right? Because if there was, let's say that we're barbarians, and this is like caveman days. Let's say that there is an aggressive tribe that continues to attack you. Well, if you keep doing reciprocative penalties and they keep trying to take you out, then all you're doing is you're tolerating somebody who wants your destruction. And so,
sure. Although I will say, let me just say this: like, one of the things that I look for when I'm seeing like how true a person's claims are, especially when it comes to like fear, is I'm looking at how the person is behaving or acting. And I hear this thing a lot brought up about like DGG and how terrifying my community is and all this bullshit. And I think my community is basically terrifying if you're like a friend of mine, because then you care about what my community thinks. And if you say something they disagree with, they're fucking retarded, and their hate threat is like way more aggressive than it needs to be. But that's about the extent of terrifyingness that my community goes to. And when I asked Doobie, what's an example of my community like real life harassing somebody, the only example he could give me was Darius apparently going to the wrong house for Ryle Kitten House. And Darius is retarded and does his own shit. And then he had a video of Darius walking up to Lauren De Laguna on the street and talking to her for 30 seconds. Just fucking retarded. And then when I look at like the behavior of the other communities, well, it seems like all of them still spam talk about me. All of them were still spamming streams on me. All of them were still cross-posting emails that Saba guy was sending to my attorneys, to opposing counsel attorneys, to victims in my case. Like, all of this stuff, it doesn't seem like there's much fear on their side. It doesn't seem like they're really that afraid, despite how horrifying, the doxing and everything else is. Whereas when I look on my side, right, everybody's fucking terrified of the anti-fan communities over there. Hutch came out and said, like, I can't be anywhere near, like Destiny or these guys, like the doxing and everything else that's going on. This is just way, way, way too crazy. Like, every single person in my corner of the internet was getting doxed on Kiwi Farms, and everybody was getting crazy harassed by the people in Discord's Discord server. So, like, I don't buy into that. I don't think they even feel like it's barbaric or whatever. They just, I don't think that's true. Like, look at, for instance, like a one-to-one example. You know who Zoe and Jacob are?
Yeah, they're the people who moved into a Discord and they were your friends, and then they just spent months saying you're a bad guy.
So when Blav doxed them initially, they were so afraid they left the internet for 2 months. And then they came back and somehow made up with Blav, and now they're like my biggest anti-fans. They haven't left because of me doxing people on that server, me threatening anybody. They're still there. They're still chatting. They're not scared at all, because my community's not very scary. We really don't engage in like very much fucked up behavior anymore.
Yeah, but I think we can acknowledge though that doxing in general, because the whole reason why they left the internet because of Blab or whatever is because they are scared of consequences
of certain communities.
Somebody's going to contact their work. Somebody's going to
Kiwi
contact
Farms
their family,
doing it. Yes.
Make up rumors about them.
Of Kiwi Farms doing it. Yes, but not my community. I don't know if we've ever done this before. I don't know if I don't think anybody really believes that when they say TGG will do these things, because I don't think it's even happened before.
Yeah, but the counter argument is when you say that you would kill Queeman and J-Stock and whoever else if you could, the argument is that effectively that's stochastic rhetoric, and that's where I don't want you to,
yeah, but like, do they? First of all,
I don't want you to piss on my leg and tell me that it's raining.
But how many times you've watched my stream?
5 years talking about stochastic rhetoric.
Yeah, but you've watched my stream for years. Like, how many times have I said, right? Someone needs to kill this motherfucker. I hate this guy. Blah blah blah. This is in a private call to Willie Mac. I didn't even know this call was getting published, but this is a call to Willie Mac. So one, I say this type of shit all the time. I don't think anybody takes it seriously. But number two, again, I can look at the response on the other side. Did they take it seriously? No. None of them were deterred from covering my stuff. They all covered it religiously. They all participated as much as they could in all my court cases. When Gisticle got outed by Pixie's incompetence and in one of the public filings, he laughed about it on stream. He didn't really seem like very concerned or scared about it. Abby seems concerned or scared, although I think it's because she's perjuring herself and Pixie's asking her to. But yeah, I don't think that these people's complaints are very serious. And I don't think you should take them very seriously. I know they try to represent them as serious, but like their behavior just makes it very obvious that it's not serious at all.
Okay, but trying to evaluate the behavior from as objective as a perspective as you can. Let's ignore the way that they feel about it for a second.
Sure.
Okay. I know because I was beat in the dick for 4 years about stochastic rhetoric being so evil between 2019 and 2022. They were effectively saying that Tucker Carlson is a stochastic terrorist because all of his rhetoric. So I know that the chances of somebody acting on you saying like, oh, I'll kill Queeman, I'll kill J-Stock, whatever, and also these people deserve to be doxxed or whatever. I think that DGG or elements of DGG might dox. I doubt anybody would ever like kill or IRL harass with the exception of Darius. And like you said, Darius is not exactly an intimidating figure. However, sure. I think that the intent there is fuck you, stop covering me, stop talking shit about me, or else I'm going to dox you. Or else, I'm going to use stochastic rhetoric to threaten you.
I mean, there's a lot of people who, like, cover me negatively and are retardedly critical of me. Like, Ethan Klein was a fucking retard, and Nicholas Diorio is a fucking retard.
Yeah, and then you blasted his shit. Like, you didn't blast Nick Diorio's shit, but you
hold on. But wait. Well, of course I blasted Ethan's shit because it's all on the internet. But I didn't dox Ethan. I didn't dox Nicholas Diorio. Or I didn't dox Willie Mack, even though I think all these people acted retardedly. There's a difference between their behavior and just hosting a server where people are dedicating an inordinate amount of time obsessively talking about me, stalking me, harassing me, emailing people around me. Like, it's a different type of behavior, and then showing up in other communities to do it. Like, that's the biggest thing. The reason why, and it's so sad that like Kiwi Farms, for the most part, they follow this, but my thread is just crazy unhinged. There's this concept of like, don't touch the poop. If you want to make a community and you want to gossip about somebody, I think you should have the right to do that. You want to say horrible, evil things. You want to make fun of the way they look, the way they talk, the way they act, whatever. I think fine. I mean, it's America. Well, if you're in America, it's America. Whatever. Freedom of speech. That's fine. But when it starts to leak over and infect every single community, when I'm talking to Pisco and Doobie is donating $1,000 during our talk to try to get his points across, and I'm talking to Doobie on Wickstream and Gisticle's in his server saying Doobie shouldn't be using talking points unless I'm giving them to him, and then when Gisticle and all of the anti-fans are in Pisco's server and they're just restreaming like random DMs of mine, like do you understand that's like a different thing than just, because you just said with people who are criticizing you, right? You understand that's like a different thing in kind, right?
Yeah, I think
you don't see. Wait. Though, it sounds like you don't think it is because you were like, yeah.
No, well, I was going to articulate the difference. I think the difference is we're public figures or semi-public figures, and so any of our behavior that is made available to the public, you can criticize. Whereas I think that what differentiates Kiwi Farms, Doxbin, whatever, is that, in my opinion, that they play cute with doxing information. They play cute with like swatting and all that kind of stuff, where they're like, oh, well, it's against our terms of service to swat. It's against our terms of service to touch the poo. But of course, like, the purpose of doxing is to get somebody else to touch the poo, right? Sure.
To be clear, I don't know where you heard this, and I don't know if I'm just not aware of this. Doxbin is, to my understanding, Doxbin is like Pastebin, but for doxes. I don't know where this idea that like Doxbin is this crazy community. It's just a place where people post doxes. I don't like to say it on stream, but like you can.
Well, right, but yeah. the purpose, right, is to make it easily accessible. So if you want to digitally harass somebody, then you can.
Yeah, sure. It's definitely a threatening or an intimidation thing for sure. But there's also kind of a catch-22 here as well, in that like if you dox a rando, like nothing's probably happening to this person because nobody gives a fuck about them, right? Like nobody's.
Well, I mean, I would say that's why I'm relatively chill. My public information is probably relatively easy to find, but the reason why I'm not too freaked out about it is because it's like, okay, you know my address.
Yeah.
Well, if you come to my address, like I've already talked to local law enforcement, and I've already told them, that I'm a public figure and I could get swatted. They allegedly took notes down and all that kind of stuff. But besides that, if you come to my address, like we might have problems depending on what your intent is.
Sure.
But the, okay, so I guess the.
But this, I don't buy this. Like, you're a public figure, so you have to accept infinite levels of obsessive harassment that bleeds over into every single other community that you're a part of. That I don't think I have to accept that. And if we're gonna play that game, then I will. Like, I don't think doxing is illegal. I don't think I would try to break the law. But like, I'm gonna go up to and including anything that is like within the legal confines of.
Well, I don't know about accepting, but just as an example, like. And maybe this would make the content less boring, like obvious, or it would make it more boring. So maybe I'm advocating for more boring content, which is not good. But effectively, like nobody's gonna harass me because of my 40K shit. I don't think that, name it. I don't think Adam Mockler gets like. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he gets like doxed, harassed. People.
No, he doesn't.
His sex stuff. He does not.
No.
Well, that's what I would say. It's because he shows up, he does his job.
Yeah, I understand this, but to repeat this, maybe I'm not repeating it to you, but I've said this a million times. The biggest annoying thing about this court case was the court case had to do with a conversation I had in 2022 about a video that I made in 2020 that was leaked on the internet then in 2024. So like, yeah. All of the annoying like harassment and stalking and obsession over like my personal life and stuff is stuff that it was all in the past for me. Like, it's not really anything that is currently like I just don't do relationship stuff, drama stuff, interpersonal stuff on stream anymore. It just hasn't been part of my stream for like 2 years basically, aside from whatever gets like drug up in the court case.
Okay. Well, I pressed you about this though in the past though. Are you still engaging casually with women who you may or may not know a lot about them, and therefore they could blow up on you?
I mean, the biggest change in my behavior is I just don't mess with any like streamer, YouTuber people anymore. If they're an online person, that's like the #1 red flag I found, more than BPD, more than fucking criminal record, more than anything else. Is if a person is a streamer or like any kind of public social media figure, then that's always like the biggest red flag. And that's been the #1 thing that's kept more or less everything off of my stream for the past like 2 years.
Yeah, but your sex negative followers like me and probably Kyla to a degree.
Sure.
There are people where if you engage with them casually, you do not spend enough time getting to know them. Therefore, you don't know who they are. Therefore, if the relationship sours, they could very quickly become an online person in order to blow your shit up.
Yeah, I guess theoretically that could happen, huh, Connor? Generally speaking, I would say over the past 2 years, this is like significantly decreased. My guess is by the end of this year, it'll basically be at 0. But yeah, all that. Yeah,
I just want to share this, and then honestly, I'll stop moral frogging unless people are finding it entertaining. I think the reason why, as one of your sex negative internet friends, I want it to be 0, is because like you've paid a lot of people around you. Well, #1, you've paid a lot of consequences for the things that have happened. #2, the people around you who want what's in your best interest or whatever, if they go out on a relational limb, and I do think it's funny that effectively, like, you've known Dan forever, which is why Dan is, your friend. Kyla and I would say, are more conservative in some regards. And I think that loyalty is probably something that we value, which is why I think that despite some turbulent times, we haven't just totally been like, oh, fuck Steven, let's backstab him instantaneously. But the point with that is, the reason why I wanted to drop to 0 is because I don't care if you goon. I don't care if you have fun. I don't care if you're promiscuous. Whatever. You're an adult. You need to make up your own decisions. But when you're loose and fast with random people and you trust them too much too quickly, what ends up happening is if they decide to blow your shit up, and they're private people, but they decide to be internet people and then blow your shit up, we look like fools. Kyla and I look like fools because we're trying to be your friend, we want to be your friend, et cetera, but then it looks like you're not learning lessons from repeated social blow-ups.
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
All right. So
I understand that. Yeah.
that's really
I wish.
it.
I know it's
think
really
I've
hard, and I
told
know
as
that
much
you guys
in
are in
person and in
compromise.
private.
Sure, I know you guys are in compromised positions. I guess as a result of that, I guess it's impossible. I do wish it was possible for some people to say like, oh, like sometimes a person makes a mistake and it doesn't have to reflect negatively on me, like or you. But apparently this is impossible, I guess, in this day and age. But yeah,
Well,
I mean,
and birds of a feather flock together. So effectively, like, you know, regardless of whether or not guilt by association is a correct perspective to take, it's one that people use all the time.
I guess on our side they do. Yeah, sure. Listen, you know what? I'm just going to become a conservative, and then we're fucking Gucci, okay? You and me can go conservative together, and then I can
we could be
rape motherfuckers, and they don't care on that side.
They don't care about anything.
That's
they don't
the
care
true
that the president
future.
is a pedophile. That, you know, that's good God.
Based.
So, anyways, that was realistically just for the sake of momentum. If you had something else that you wanted to talk about, I'd be happy to talk about it. But I did want to kind of ask you about the Epstein thing, see if you'd evolved on that at all. And then I did want to talk about the moral systems because I do think people are perceiving it differently. But that's what I had. That's all I had.
Okay. Yeah. Well, how's life going for you in general otherwise?
Pretty good, pretty good. You know, wife and I, we talk smack every now and then, but the stream is going great. We're kind of a smaller community. We're only like 100 to 150 lives, so we're not a particularly large community. But I have a disproportionately generous community. Just as an example, despite only having 100 to 150, today I've had 40 super chats of varying dollar amounts.
Nice. It's all those Warhammer fans. They've got all that extra money in between seasons that they're not spending on figurines and painting kits and everything, you know?
I don't have time for that anymore. Although, I guess the thing that I should shill, I'm doing CounterPoints 40K, obviously still in the background where I'm breaking down the wonderful world of Warhammer. But I also launched CounterPoints Sci-Fi and Star Wars, and we are posting weekly content. So if you want to see breakdown content of Sci-Fi and Star Wars, then CounterPoints Sci-Fi and Star Wars is where to do it.
Okay, awesome. Well,
all right.
I love you. All right. Be careful. Stay safe.
I love you too. Stop being an idiot. Stop gooning. Stop fucking with crazy people.
I would never do that.
Take care of your people.
I love you. Be careful. Bye.
All right. Bye, bud.